The new section, yesterday we saw about the importance of vichar, and the direct means of self-knowledge is listening, reflecting and contemplation. Now the new section starts, which is about the adhikari. Who is an eligible student? Who is a fit student? So verse number 14. Adhikarinama shaste phala siddhir visheshatah upaya desha kaladhyaha tantyasmin sahakarinaha. So he says here that the realization of the truth mainly depends on adhikara, eligibility. Adhikarinam ashaste. Phala here means the supreme truth or the self. Phala siddhir means the realization of the self. Visheshata, mainly. So mainly the realization of the self depends on the eligibility of the student. Upayaha, the various means or the place, the time, desha kala adhyaha, santi asmin sahakarinaha. In this path, the place, the time, the various other means are secondary. They are helpful, but they are secondary. They are not the primary means. So now what does this mean here? So what is the nature of the goal that we want to realize? It is not something that we don't have. It is something which we already are. Like the dreamer is already the waker. The snake is actually the rope. The dreamer doesn't have to become the waker. The snake doesn't have to become the rope. Only the wrong notion has to go. Clarity has to come, knowledge has to come. So a person who understands that this is the nature of the goal, something which is already with me, I just need to remove the obstacles to knowledge. And to remove that obstacles to knowledge, there are ways, the approach to the teacher, gaining the knowledge, that is done. But if the mind is not ready for it, the knowledge will not assimilate. So adhikari means a fit student of Vedanta who has the necessary internal qualifications of the mind. This applies in the whole, in every aspect actually. Even in a medical field, eligible person gets the right knowledge of medicine and it becomes a good doctor. Just by wearing a coat or wearing a stethoscope, like in childhood, many times when one plays, with the, so one plays doctor, one plays policeman and thief, one plays, a family scene. So one puts on a coat, one puts on a stethoscope, and as though one is, examining the patient. So children play like that. So by putting on a coat, by putting on a stethoscope, one doesn't become a doctor. The qualification has to be there inside. Somebody just says casually that the only profession where you don't need any qualification is you become a politician. But otherwise you need a qualification. So in every aspect, same way in spiritual aspect also. A person must have the right internal qualities, the mindset to walk the path of spirituality. Today we find that a lot of focus remains on the externalities. So when one wants to do meditation, so many accessories are available. Meditation mat, meditation clothes, meditation light, meditation fragrance, special pictures for meditation, many things like that are available. And one uses all of them and they may have some relevance also. But mainly the steadiness of the mind is the qualification required for meditation. So adhikari means that one who has the capability, one who has the eligibility. One meaning of adhikara is right in Hindi. In Sanskrit, the meaning of adhikara is eligibility. When I become eligible, then I have the right to that. So, suppose when we turn 18, then we are eligible. So then we have a right to vote, a right for to drive a vehicle. So on the eligibility depends the right. Same way, when we become eligible, we have the right to gain the knowledge. This is not to deny somebody on the basis of externalities, on the basis of birth, caste, creed, community. It is not on the basis of birth, it is on the basis of internal temperament. Like we have entrance tests for so many exams, so many courses. So the entrance test tests whether one is eligible or not. And if one is eligible, then one gets the seat and then one gets the knowledge. So in the same way here he says, Adhikarinam ashaste. Mainly on the internal qualities, internal eligibility, depends the knowledge of the truth. Depends the experience of the truth. Phalasiddhir visheshata. The word visheshata is important. Visheshata means mainly, specially. So we see so many realized masters born in such humble situations, but they are experiencing the absolute truth. Gora Kumbhar was a potter, Kabir was a weaver. Vedavyasji was a fisherman's son. So it doesn't matter where one is born, in what conditions, what community, rich or poor, man or a woman. Those are external aspects. Internal qualities, what is required for a particular knowledge. If I have those qualities, I will get this knowledge. So the Siddhanta in Vedanta is very simple. When the knower contacts the known, knowledge has to arise. Suppose the eyes are seeing this computer. Eye is the knower, computer is the known. When the eye contacts the computer, the knowledge has to arise that this is a computer. If the knowledge is not arising, when the knower contacts the known, either the problem is that the knower is having some defect, or the problem is the knower is not aware. For example, when the eye is not able to see properly, there is some irritation in the eye and I'm not able to see properly, or there is conjunctivitis, or there is cataract, or there is blindness. Now the knower has a defect. The knower is not able to contact the known properly, so knowledge will not arise. Or the known is absent. The known is not there at all. Then to anyway the knower is not contacting the known. But when the knower contacts the known, if there is a defect, so defect can be in the senses here in this example, or the mind doesn't know that this is a computer. So the mind is seeing, the eye is seeing this form, but it is not able to recognize, oh, this is called a computer. It is just seeing. So some vague knowledge arises. Clear knowledge doesn't arise. So one feels that, okay, this is some machine, some equipment. Because the mind and intellect don't have the clarity. So if we have to make it more clear, the senses have some defect, the intellect does not have the knowledge, or the mind is very disturbed. Emotions are overwhelming. So even if one is seeing something, the mind is not available. So then the knowledge doesn't arise. So if our senses have a problem, our mind is disturbed, our intellect does not have knowledge, then the problem is in the knower. And if these problems are removed, then the knower contacting the known, knowledge has to happen. There is no doubt in that. Now if we apply this to spiritual life, to our self, the self is ever present, So there is no question of known not being present. The self is ever present. The knower, which is the individual, jiva. If the jiva is trying to contemplate upon the self, the knowledge is not rising, then there is some defect in the knower. Those defects have to be removed. Adhikara means to cultivate the eligibility by removing the defects or making oneself capable, which is one and the same thing. So when I become capable, meaning cultivate a pure mind, a steady intellect, sense control, if all these I cultivate, these are the internal qualifications. And this will come ahead as we go along. Sadhan Chatushtaya, fourfold qualifications will be explained. That these are the fourfold qualifications required to gain the knowledge of the self. Realization of the self depends mainly on these fourfold qualifications. It doesn't depend on externalities at all. When we are extroverted, our mind always gives some or the other excuse of externality. You know, like when Gurudev was giving talks on the Gita, 6th chapter of the Gita is Dhyan Yoga. So Gurudev mentions in that what is said in the Gita, that what is the asan Chailajina Kushottaram. There is a kusha grass on which the animal skin is put, on which a white cloth is put. A cloth is put. Chaila, Ajina, Kusha, Uttara. Those days they used to get this kusha grass which will help to keep oneself warm. The soil may be wet. So kusha grass helps to keep oneself dry and warm. They used to get a dead animal skin, deer skin, tiger skin, all that, because the rishis in the forest. So they would put that skin, and the sweat of the body must not react with that skin. So a cloth is put on that. So the energy that is generated in meditation gets conserved in the body, doesn't get absorbed by the earth. So Gurudev explained all this, and then he asked, after a few days when he went to someone's house for Bhiksha, and he asked that gentleman that, you were attending the talks on 6th chapter, are you meditating? So he says, no Swamiji, I am not yet started, I am waiting. He said, you are waiting for what? He said, I have ordered the kusha grass mat. When it comes, then I will start meditating. So now if one waits like that, the realization doesn't depend on kusha grass. It is the eligibility in the mind. In another incident in Hong Kong, there were the young people, very inspired. They heard Gurudev's talk in the evening, went with him for the Bhiksha. They had satsang there also. And now it is almost 10:30 in the night. They all felt very inspired. They said, we will go and spend some time in silence. So they went to a particular place. Those days there were no cell phone, nothing. They did not inform the parents. Now, very casual, the attitude was. So, what they felt, they did not bother to inform the parents. So, parents felt very concerned, anxious, where are our children? They were with Gurudev, and what happened? They found out Gurudev has come back home. Parents have not, the children have not come. And if they may have gone for a party or anything, but they should have come back by 1 o'clock or 1:30. But now it is 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and the whole group is missing. So the parents were very, very concerned and very anxious. And Gurudev is leaving the next day, the yajna is over, the last day it was. So finally at 5:30 in the morning, they all go to Gurudev. Gurudev is about to leave at 6 o'clock. They are all very concerned. And when they reach there, in some time, by 10 minutes before 6, all these youngsters, they come to see off Gurudev. And when they come there, all the parents are fuming with anger. What are these people up to? Where have they been? And they had told all this to Gurudev, and they expected that Gurudev would fire them. So Gurudev looked at all of them and he just asked, where were you? So the youngsters, they said, Swamiji, after the Bhiksha got over, we just went to spend some time in silence. They did not tell him which place they went to. But Gurudev on his own, he told them that you don't have to go to the peak to meditate. In meditation, reach the peak. So there's a point in Hong Kong, it is called the Peak. Supposed to be a quiet place. And these all youngsters had gone there. So Gurudev instantly told them that you don't have to go to the peak to meditate. In meditation, you reach the peak. So the place, the time, the accessories, they all are secondary. No doubt they have an impact. So many people will feel that. So when we go to the Himalayas, when we go to a sacred spot, Kashi, or we go to any Ganga Ghat, any place, the place has its own vibration, the place has its own importance, there is no doubt. But again, these are secondary. Sitting in Himalayas, somebody's mind can be very agitated, and sitting at home, somebody's mind can be very peaceful. It depends on how the mind of that person is, how eligible the person is. So, upayaha desha kaladhyaha, time. So many times people ask, so what is the best time to meditate? Now the best time to meditate can be when we say Brahma Muhurat is the best time, between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. But if I've slept only at 2 o'clock, how will I get up and meditate? The eligibility is not there, the freshness is not there. So then whichever time I am able to be fresh, I take that time up and meditate. So time may play a very significant role, that early in the morning, there's sattvic vibration in the atmosphere. A person is able to meditate better, concentrate better, but the mind must be ready for that. So many rishis are meditating in the morning. The entire atmosphere has a lot of spiritual vibrations. So time has an importance. But if I'm not ready at that time and I'm going to take it up, I will be frustrated. So one has to cultivate the adhikara, the eligibility. And then the secondary means will help in that. So if a person is eligible, has the right qualifications, when that person has slept well, is very fit, that person gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning, sits for meditation, it will go very deep. Then there are both which are working. The eligibility, which is internal qualification, that is also working, and the time and place also is working. That's the benefit. Gets the benefit of both the secondary accessories as well as the primary qualification. But without primary qualification, only secondary accessories will not help. Very simple it is. Suppose I want to drive a vehicle, then what happens? If I don't know how to drive the vehicle, I may wear the helmet, and I may wear some gloves and so many things, but it will not work. So the primary qualification is very, very important. How to cultivate that is what Vivek Chudamani will say further. But this section is to emphasize that adhikara depends mainly on the internal qualification. On one hand, it makes it very clear that place, time, other accessories are secondary. On the other hand, it also makes it clear that where you are born, what is your gender, what is your caste, what is your creed, what is your community, nationality, all that is also secondary. Because in our culture, unfortunately, that exploitation has happened. which is not the fault of the system, that is the fault of the human mind. It becomes greedy or which becomes insecure and wants to control, wants to deny. So this adhikara is measured by the internal qualifications. And hence, only a person who is able to understand this, that what is my qualification, am I ready or not? If I am not ready, I should make myself ready. This is not to deny the knowledge. So when a student comes to a teacher, when the teacher sees that the student is not yet eligible, the teacher will not just reject the student. The teacher will ensure that the student becomes eligible, gets the right qualifications required. So the teacher trains that student. Even in the Upanishads we find the student who is not eligible for the highest knowledge, the Upanishad doesn't reject that person. The Upanishad says, okay, if you are not able to understand this, then do the Upasana. If you can't do the Upasana, then follow certain values. If you can't do that, then at least do some dynamic action. So it will give, according to the eligibility, what is the appropriate means at that level, so that following that I can rise to higher level, make myself eligible. So in this Vivek Chudamani also we will find that this is what will happen. The various means for making oneself eligible, those will be explained. Now the word upaya is a very nice word here. Literally upaya means a means. In Hindi upaya means a solution. Here it is a means. So in Sanskrit, if we split the word upa and aya, so aya means income. So that which will give me an income, what is that? So business is the means, let us say, or work is the means. So work becomes upaya, the means to gain revenue or money. Now upaya is such a thing where it is a means, and when we use a means, after the goal or the purpose is reached, the means has to be dropped. So if I have to cross a river, the means to cross the river will be a boat, let us say. When I reach the shore, the other shore, then I have to leave that. I can't say that, this boat has helped me to cross. I'm so grateful to the boats. I'm going to sit in the boat only. I have to leave that and go. So upaya is a temporary means. So we may use an upaya to cultivate eligibility, and when the eligibility is cultivated, then I may leave it. For example, the form. Somebody is worshipping a Shivlinga, or somebody is worshipping a Shaligrama, or any form. Devi, Durga, any form. Now the form is a upaya, is a means to cultivate the adhikara. So the mind which was restless, which was fickle, which was impulsive, which was highly attached, now to cultivate steadiness of the mind, single pointedness of the mind, purity of the mind, I use a means. So the form helps me to do that. So the upaya can help me to cultivate adhikara. And when I have cultivated the adhikara, then I can drop the upaya. So it is said here, Upadayapi ye heyaha upayate prakirtitaha. Upadaya, having got what one has to get using the means, heyaha, that which is dropped. Upadayapi ye heyaha upaya te prakirtitaha. They are called as the means. So the day, so the place, the time, etc., they all also are the means. So if I sit at the right place, in the right atmosphere, in the right time, and I learn to meditate, now I make the mind single pointed and still, I have learned the technique. Then wherever I go, I can sit that way. Then I don't need a specific place, specific time. The means has helped me to cultivate the adhikar. And now I am ready. So it is like walking. So when we learn to walk, we use a support first. Even with support, we may fall sometimes. But as I learn to walk properly, then the support is dropped. Then anywhere I can walk, there is no problem. Initially, I must walk in a protected environment. In the same way, initially in spiritual life, place, time, certain accessories, books, mala, so many things, they are all required. But as one progresses, the eligibility one gains, then one becomes an expert. Then one may drop the means and go to the higher level. So that way, one has to keep cultivating the qualifications and the qualities. So if my meditation is not going well, or if I am not able to understand something properly, or if I am not feeling the unfoldment in spiritual path, I should not blame anything outside. One should not say that, oh, I think right now Shani Dasha is happening, so I'm not able to get it. Or, my environment is not so great. Or the teacher who is teaching me, I think there's some defect in that teacher. Usually the human tendency would always be to blame something outside. And especially in spiritual path, when the path is so subtle, where the focus has to be on one's own mind. Not every time one is ready and one takes charge, one takes responsibility that my evolution is because of my mindset. I don't have to blame anybody. If I got tempted, I fell for something, it is my mind's weakness. No point in blaming someone outside that, that person behaved in such a tempting way that I could not resist. Or, that object was so tempting, I could not resist. It's my mind. So, in spiritual life, we take charge of our life. We take charge of our responses. We take charge of our thought process. We don't blame anybody. All the great people, when we see the same adverse situation somebody has faced, but this person has responded so positively, so proactively, learned something, taken it as a challenge, grown out of it. So in that way, adhikara is a very important aspect. Let me cultivate the qualification. What those qualifications are, they will come as we go along. So he continues ahead. Ato vichara kartavyaha jignasoratma vastunaha tamasa vyadaya sindhum gurum brahma viduttamam. So having cultivated the qualifications, what should one do? Ato vichara kartavyaha. What was said earlier. Having cultivated the qualifications, one must do the vichar. By whom? Jignaso atma vastunaha. Jignasu means one who has the desire to know. And not just know for the sake of objective knowledge. Here what we are trying to know is the self. So any other subject, when I try to know, I am only trying to get the knowledge of something other than me. So the I in me remains, and this I gains the knowledge of some physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, zoology, botany, all that. In Vedanta, we are trying to know who is this I. Jignasur Atma Vastunaha. The word Atma literally means Aham, I. But we don't know the nature of this I today. We have confused this I, the pure I, to be the body, to be the jiva. So who is this real I? One who desires to know that is a jignasu. And I want to know who am I in my true nature. For that I have to reflect, I have to think properly, I have to discriminate. What is real, what is unreal, what is Atma, what is Anatma. So that's what it says here. Ato vichara kartavyaha jignasa atma vastuna. And the jignasa is not some intellectual quest alone. It is a feeling that I really want to know. Just like, how we feel. Suppose we have lost our phone. How we go about searching the phone? Do we make it an intellectual quest? Okay, my phone is lost somewhere. Let me think about it. Let me seek the phone. Let me make some inquiries, and if I get it, great. If I don't get it, it's okay. It's not an intellectual inquiry or some casual inquiry. I feel, oh my God, my phone is not there. There's a sense of loss. There's a sense of anxiety that, oh God, I need to know where is my phone. I need to get it. With what intensity we seek that? At that point in time, there's nothing else there in the mind. Here, it is not an object that we have lost. It is our own self that we have lost. That supreme happiness, which is my nature, immortality is my nature, pure knowledge is my nature. I have lost that. The most precious knowledge of my own true self, I have lost. Not only I have lost it, I am thinking of it as though I am the body, and I think that that is me. So there is wrong knowledge. It is like taking a toy phone and assuming that phone is my phone. Looks similar to my phone, let us say, but it is a toy phone. Like that, we have taken this body to be I. This is not real. Hence, he says here that the Jignasu Atmavastuna is a person who feels that I have lost something, I want to gain it. And that is my own true self that I have lost. With that intensity, one seeks. So, just like when a phone is lost, we ask people, where is it? Did you see it? Have you seen it? It looks like this. Now, here, I may search, and I have been searching outside in the world. Not knowing what I am searching is the Supreme Self, which is my own nature. I am seeking that permanent happiness in the world outside. So in objects, people, situations, I have searched. I have got temporary pleasure. But that is not the bliss of the Atma. So now where to search? Only place left to search is inside. Now how will I turn the mind inside? Full time the mind and senses are extroverted. So I need the help. I need some guidance and support. So whom should I go to? Samasadhya Daya Sindhum. Approach a teacher. Samasadhya. Samasadhya means with a mind which is quietened. Go to the teacher. Not casually just calling up and saying, I want to learn Vedanta. Can you clarify some doubts? Or just some casual inquiry, some questions. Now and then when you meet some spiritual person, ask something. Not like that. Samasadhya means with a clear-cut understanding. One goes with a quiet mind, with that intensity to know that I want to know this self. Abhimukhyena, that's the word. One has to turn towards the teacher, meaning one is ready to gain the knowledge. So the qualities like humility, open-mindedness, service, surrender, with these qualities, equipped with these, one goes to the teacher that, I really want to know. Can you please teach me? And I am ready to let go of my false notions for it. I am open in the mind. And I surrender in devotion and faith. Sometimes surrender and faith come as one associates. Slowly it grows. But at least one goes there sincerely to understand that I really want to know this self. So Samasadhya. And who is this Guru? Daya Sindhum Gurum. He's an ocean of compassion. The Guru is not one who is himself or herself insecure. So there's a Subhashita which says, Guravo Bhava Santi Shishya Vittapa Harakaha. There are many gurus in the world who are out there to just take away the wealth of the disciple. Vitta. Guravo virala santi shishya hrittapaharakaha. There are very few gurus who are there to take away the inner conflicts and ignorance and trouble of the disciple. Hrit tapa, what is scorching one's heart, the subjective uh, agitations. Very few teachers take away that. Who will be able to take away that? A teacher who is compassionate, Daya Sindhu, who has love for the student, who has gone through. Why is the teacher compassionate? Because the teacher himself or herself has gone through the whole process of sadhana, has understood that how ignorance plays the trick, how we feel bound, how there is attachment, how there is agitation, anger, fear, greed, and how all these trouble us and we are not able to experience our true nature. Having gone through the whole process of sadhana, when one has realized the truth, there is supreme compassion in the heart. Such compassion that even when the disciple sometimes doesn't know that the disciple is bound, the teacher wakes up the disciple to make the disciple realize that you are bound. People like Vivekananda ji and Gurudev, they did that work. People were not even aware that there is something called ignorance, bondage. They left their quiet state of samadhi, sitting quietly in the meditative state, came down, started teaching, did so many things to create a platform for people to come together, to purify their mind. So much of hard work. 9 years time, Vivekananda ji established Ramakrishna Mission from 1893 to 1902. In 9 years, imagine how much amount of work he must have done to establish the centers all over the world. With no modern means of communication, technology, email, fax, WhatsApp, nothing. Same way Shankaracharya ji, same way Gurudev. In short span of time, how much hard work? That is the ocean of compassion. Who understands what is the suffering, who has supreme compassion to accommodate the student with all the limitations and weaknesses, and who with compassion ensures that the student is able to come out of these limitations and weaknesses and doesn't give up on the student, doesn't condemn the student, doesn't brand the student that you are a gone case, nothing can be done with you. Whichever student at whichever level he or she is, the teacher slowly raises them step by step. Provides the emotional support that a student requires. By being a role model, by being who he or she is, anchored in the knowledge, anchored in scriptural tradition, the person is able to invoke surrender in the disciple. So when the disciple has left everything and come to the teacher becomes the support for the student till a point that the student doesn't realize the truth. Otherwise, the mind to withdraw and detach becomes very difficult. It needs some guidance, some support. So the teacher out of compassion becomes that support. And at the right time, the teacher knows how to make the student also completely independent. That's the quality of a teacher. Guru is one who is independent and who makes others independent. If there is a guru who is making other people bound, then that person is not a real guru. So supreme compassion, Daya Sindhu, one who has this supreme compassion, go to such a teacher. And who is he? Brahmavid Uttamam, supreme amongst the knower of Brahman. Now there are no categories in the knowers of Brahman in that sense. One cannot say that this person is good knower of Brahman, this person is a better knower of Brahman, that person is the best knower of Brahman. There are no such gradations. Brahmavid Uttamam here means that Brahmavid who is the best for me. It is with reference to the disciple, not with reference to the teacher. So like a Ramana Maharshi's method of self-inquiry, that keep asking the question, who am I? Or a, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's method of upasana, or let us say Gurudev's method of Vedanta, Karma Yoga, Upasana, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasa. There are people like Gurudev who are dynamic, who can explain the truth to the student in the way in which the student will understand. And there are teachers like Ramana Maharshi who will stick to their self-inquiry. We have to lift ourselves to that level. Depending on what is my temperament, what appeals to me, which is the path, which is the teacher I can follow. The knowledge of the self is the same in Gurudev also, Shankaracharya also, Ramakrishna also, Ramana Maharshi also, Sharda Devi also, Mirabai also. All these, the realization is the same. Brahmavid is the same. Knower of Brahman is the same. But who is suited for me according to my temperament? Suppose one says, but I don't know what is my temperament. Maybe in the beginning you don't know. As we go along, as we associate with the teacher himself or herself may also say, if we are not able to identify, that for you this path will be better. Like for Gurudev, Swami Chindananji, his teacher, Swami Shivananji, told him, because Gurudev had lots and lots of questions. And the students who were with Swami Shivananji were more faith oriented, in the sense that they were not having so many questions. They would just believe because Swamiji is saying it. And implicit faith, proper. So for Gurudev, Swami Shivananji told him that you go and meet Swami Tapovanam and ask your questions there, because here the Shraddha of many other disciples is getting shaken up. And he did not have time to give exclusive attention to Gurudev separately, because he was running a whole organization. Tapon Maharaj is a recluse. So he said, okay, you go there. He is the right person who can guide you, and you would have time also. So the teacher will send you to the appropriate person if we don't know by ourselves. If we know by ourselves, then we can choose. So, Daya Sindhum Gurum Brahmavid Uttamam. So when we go to a teacher who is experienced, who has known the self, who is supremely compassionate. If I have known the self, compassion will arise in the heart. If I have simply intellectually known the self, then the possibility also is that enough compassion may not be there, unconditional compassion may not be there. Sometimes even the arrogance of knowledge can be there, like many scholars or people would have. Compassion, humility, etc. are the direct results of proper knowledge and realization. So such a teacher, one goes to Daya Sindhum Gurum Brahmavid Uttamam. So having cultivated the eligibility, the qualifications, one must go to the teacher and do this vichar. Ato vichara kartavya. What should I do going to the teacher? I must do vichar. Not that, okay, teacher, I have come now, it's your responsibility to give me moksha. No, no. One has to go to the teacher to do the vichar, to do Shravan Manan Nididhyasa. So, Akhandananji gives a very nice meaning of vichar. Chara means to walk. The activity of the body, at the body level, when we move, it is called chara. Charati means to move, to walk. When we live certain values at the mind and intellect level, and we bring that in our behavior, that is called achar. And when we think clearly, the movement of the buddhi from wrong knowledge or ignorance to right knowledge, that walking, that journey, that is called vichar. So char means to walk, charati. Achar means the behavioral expression of vichar, which is the right thinking. So vichar is the intellectual exercise, so to say. Both these are very important to us. Internally, we must have the right knowledge and clarity. Externally, we must have a support of a teacher. Whoever has both these, that person will know the truth, will be able to overcome obstacles, because a teacher also knows what are the obstacles on the path, will be able to guide, will be able to help us to overcome. And hence here he says, both. Ato vichara kartavyaha samasadya daya sindhum gurum brahmavid uttamam. And also this vichar has to be done in a specific way. The person who is well versed in the scriptures, that teacher will be able to guide in that specific way. The scriptural tradition, using proper logic, proper interpretation. Otherwise, when we go to somebody who is not well versed with the scriptures, half-baked knowledge one has, one misinterprets also many things. Akhandanandji gives a very nice example in this. He says that, we chant that verse, Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopashantaye. That is a shloka which is to be chanted to invoke Lord Ganesha. Many people don't understand that. So people who have half knowledge of Sanskrit or not proper knowledge of Sanskrit, they will say that that shloka is for Vishnu. Why? Shuklam Baradharam, Vishnu is written there. Shashivarnam, Chaturbhujam, 4 hands are there. Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopashantaye. Many people interpret it like that. A proper teacher will interpret it appropriately. And strange thing is, one person, one Pandit, he interpreted this and he told a king that, this shloka has a very different meaning, which is very rare. Nobody else knows this. So I am telling you that this shloka is a description of dahi, curd. Why? Because Shukla Ambaradharam, curd is white in color. Vishnu, it is all pervasive in the vessel. Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam, it is having this, it's like a moon. Chaturbhujam, you can eat it with even 4 hands. The Devatas and gods eat this. It is so rare. Prasannavadanam, when you eat it, you feel so happy. Sarva Vighnopashantaye, and it will destroy all your problems in the stomach. So that is the interpretation that one fellow told the king. Now the king said, okay, I know this deep meaning, this rahasya. Now let me test the scholars in my kingdom. So he called one scholar after the other and said, you interpret this verse. And somebody interprets for Vishnu, somebody interprets for Ganesha. And the king rejected all of them. Finally, one scholar felt that, there is some problem in the understanding of the king. So he said, sir, you are very knowledgeable, no doubt. But if you don't mind, can we spend some time in learning Sanskrit? So he said, yes. And a few days he learned Sanskrit. He learned certain things about the usage in certain ways in Sanskrit. And then the whole meaning was very clear to him. Then he understood, oh God, he was taken for a royal ride. Why? Because he was not clear, he was not aware. Even today there are people who are just interpreting the scripture in their own way. Very popular people who have massive books written on their name, who are on all TV channels and many places, many things they are talking. But the basic understanding itself is lacking. Now, when one starts following them, where it leads, very debatable. That's why one has to go to a teacher who is well versed, who teaches appropriately, who is a compassionate person, and who is not interested in self glorification. Brahmavid, the person is established in Brahman. His job is done. Very secure, strong, clear person. So the vichar also must be based on the scriptural logic, time-tested wisdom, authentic knowledge. Otherwise, there is so much of confusion that's possible. So that's what he says here. See, the Mahavakyas are very important to how they are interpreted. Like simple example, Tat Tvam Asi. Entire Vedic knowledge is for understanding Tattvamasi, that my true nature is the pure consciousness. Now, Tat is a basic word of Sanskrit. Undeclined word is Tat. And Tattvamasi is one sentence, it is written together, Tat Tvam Asi. So Tat means that in Advaitic interpretation it will be you are that supreme reality. That same Tat, when it is elaborated in Vishishta Advaita, it will be interpreted as Tasya Tvam Asi. You belong to God, means you are a part of God. Vedanta saying no, essentially you are one with the Lord. Vishishta Advaita is saying you are a part of the Lord. You belong to the Lord. Dvaita also will say the same, that you are a servant of the Lord. Vishishta Advaita will say you are a part, he is the whole. Advaita will say no, you are the supreme. Remove the conditionings. So now which interpretation one should take? So if we see the Veda properly, there are methods by which it is properly explained that why Tattvamasi means you are the supreme consciousness. There is Shadvidha Linga which is to be applied. There are proper methods. If somebody is not able to experience the truth through the path of Advaita and needs the support of Bhakti or some other ideology, then maybe that person can take that path. But ultimately, they will come to the same realization. Brahmavit, I become the knower of Brahman. For that, one has to come to this proper meaning that there is essential oneness. In devotion also, the supreme object of a lover is to be one with the beloved. The differences have to go. So a proper teacher is required, proper Shastra Vidhi is required, and then one experiences the supreme and one avoids so many confusions and problems that come. So that's how he says, Daya Sindhum Gurum Brahmavit Uttamam. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat
Gacchati Purnasya Purnamadaya
Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo
Hari Om